Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm Paul Fyth, host of this show where we talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, always leading from the heart and making a difference in their communities. No truer is that statement than our guest today, Dylan Ladd. Dylan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, this episode is sponsored by Paul Gregory Media, who's a certified B Corporation. If to learn more about what a B Corporation is, B is for benefit, I know that. To learn more about what a B Corporation is or what Paul Gregory Media does for nonprofits, visit paulgregorymedia.com. So as I mentioned, with me is a school leader, a music educator with an arts administration background. Is that right, Dylan?
Yes.
Experience in teaching grades 6 through 12, as well as leading an arts magnet program in the urban school district. So you have skills in school leadership as well as curriculum and instruction in the arts. So here's the deal. He's currently pioneering a new independent art school for grades 6 through 12 in the Western Suburbs of Chicago. He's leading an incredible team of visionary leaders, educators, artists towards creating this innovative arts education that brings arts and academics to the same level of rigor. And folks, all you need to know is that Dylan has his shit together. I work with about 50 to 60 nonprofit organizations at any given month, and I've never seen a more effective and impactful executive director. And I'll also mention this because I didn't even know this until a few minutes ago. Dylan right now is on a ship in the middle of the ocean somewhere in the Caribbean. So he's on the ship's library right now, which looks like a good connection you have there too.
Yeah, I paid for the Wi-Fi today for this one.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a great background. Dylan, why don't we just start off by giving the folks just a little bit about your background and what led you to this organization that you're leading up, which is now called the Illinois Conservatory of the Arts.
Yes. So I started out my career as a music educator. Growing up as a singer, a student in choir, I always wanted to become a music teacher. But beyond that, I always had kind of this entrepreneurship side of my life and interest in running organizations and learning more about business. And always kind of wanted to find a way to put the two of those together. The biggest thing I wanted to do, though, was create a place for kids that loved music just like I did or loved any form of the arts to really thrive. And so I didn't know quite what that looked like. But as I went to college, I knew that it was going to have a business element and it was going to have an education piece. So I got my bachelor's in music education and my master's in arts administration kind of right away. That way I could leave and just be kind of ready with whatever that brought me to. And I started teaching in the public school system, middle school and high school choir. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's the most rewarding job in the world, being a teacher. But in those experiences, especially in the public school system, you see some areas where the arts aren't necessarily given the full value of what they can do for a student. And, I had worked with some other teachers that grew to be incredible mentors and friends of mine that were a little more experienced in their career and had had similar dreams of mine, which would be to start a school that kind of flipped that narrative and made the arts equally as important as the academics, especially for that student who's really passionate about it. So when in the height of COVID-19, when we were all sitting at home, kind of figuring out what we're doing with life, we started having each other over a glass of wine and just chatting about those dreams. And with myself and two very important educators, Kirsten Garrigan and Julie Hindenburg, friends of mine, we just started writing things down and said, let's see what this could look like if we stopped talking about it and tried to actually do it. And fast forward to now, we're really excited that through a lot of work and research and focus, we've been able to come up with an idea that we are excited to really grow into fruition for the students in the Naperville and Western Suburbs area.
And that's kind of like what I love about this idea, right? Getting the creative arts to the same rigor, and that's the word that you chose, as the rest of academia, right? And so it's a school that actually blends both, but has equal value, equal importance, which I love.
No, it's important to us because, for example, Julie, who's one of my co-founders, Julie teaches language arts right now, but she's very passionate about the arts. She used to teach dance before that. finding ways to intertwine these two areas between, your academics and your arts is something that she's incredibly passionate about. She got her master's in arts integration, which is all about the study of taking both an academic content area and an artistic content area and blending them together for lesson planning and learning purposes for students that are, more apt to learn through the arts. And more often than not, you have students who are young artists who feel like, I'm super passionate about this, but I don't know what that means. And maybe I can take one class in the school day that could help me foster that, either to become a supporter of the arts or to become an artist one day. But there's just very little guidance for kids. Even if you go to the school guidance counselor and say, I'm looking for career advice, the arts is kind of something that's seen as important. I think our society values it, but people don't have the knowledge.
So, and that's what you're really bringing to the table, right? So you don't have a brick and mortar place just yet, but you're doing a lot of things right now with this school. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your programs and services that you're doing now?
Yeah. So a big part of what we're trying to do is bring people to the experts that are actually working in the field. And what you'll find is when you talk to any professional artist, whether they're a performer, a visual artist, anything like that, is a lot of them found their way to their careers now by kind of self exploration and stumbling through and falling and failing and learning from it, especially on the business side of things, which is another facet of what we really want to try to mend in this kind of cycle. So currently we offer after school programming in a program called The Studio, which is where students can take classes after school once a week in various things, dance, acting, music, any of these areas where they're really trying to refine skills. So it's different from a lot of other after school programs in the area because we're focusing on the skill building to give you a better process versus putting together a show and working on the product itself. The students are coming to those classes and learning, how to strengthen their skills in jazz class or in ballet class, so that when they go to audition for the community theater's musical or their school musical, their skills are a little bit stronger, and that's what's setting them apart. Outside of that program at the studio, one of our other very exciting programs that we do is called Impact. And Impact is our 5-day musical theater intensive that we do. It started in the summers, so we did a June session and an August session, and then due to the students enjoying it so much, we started offering it over winter break as well. And what that program does is we take people that are currently working in the Broadway industry, whether they have recently been on a Broadway stage or they're currently on a Broadway stage, and we bring them to our stage here in Naperville and our students and do master classes kind of throughout the day. During those 5 days and singing, dancing, and acting with professionals who a lot of these students idolize. Their names that some of these students, follow on social media or listen to on cast albums, and now they get to train with them.
So I was honored to be in the audience for the Impact finale, I guess you can call it. And
yes,
kind of amazed and shocked by what these people were able to accomplish in just 5 days. Pretty incredible.
It's so fun to watch. And I always invite our board members to come watch Impact throughout the week too, and just sit in classes. And so many of them get excited when they know the Impact week is coming because it's their chance to really see. These students come in on Monday. Most of them do not know each other. We have kids from anywhere from 8 years old all the way up to 18 years old, all in this same cohort of 20 to 30 students. And they just not only become this strong family that supports each other, and you have the 10-year-old eating lunch with the 16-year-old like their peers, but then you also have just so much growth by the end of the week. It's beautiful.
You cannot go through like a boot camp like that, I think, and not make lifelong friends, I think. And
exactly.
I think that's part of the draw. And I want to so without the brick and mortar building just yet, and you're doing this Impact program and the other program, where's the location for those? Where they learn?
So right now, we've been using the Matrix Club in Naperville, which is a new venue that's beautiful. It's kind of built around the arts, and it's been just an incredible place to house all of our programming.
It is an amazing venue for sure, and I have been there many times, and can't wait to go back. But I also want to just touch on the fact that you kind of bring in heavy hitters from Broadway and the Chicago theater and all over really. And that's kind of impressive too. You kind of know a lot of people.
Yeah. Something that I always loved doing, I actually learned this from my mom. I have to give her all the credit in the world for this, is she pushed me to talk to people and to reach out to people, even if I don't know them or even if I looked up to them and thought they were kind of out of reach. And so from a young age, she had me going to stage doors, meeting the cast after a musical. And that led to me feeling comfortable to getting to know these people. So some of the people I've brought in are people that I met when they started their careers in Chicago years ago, and now have somehow, blown up into this big thing. And some of the others I've met through some of the other work that I've done. I've had the opportunity to work on some shows and intern on some shows kind of right outside of college that has made an incredible network. And what I'll say is the people in the theater community are the most giving and kind people in the world. So, they're very approachable and have been just so generous to our organization.
I see that, especially you had a gala not too long ago, a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never seen such raw talent and generosity, I think is maybe the word I would use, because they're giving of their time and talents and treasures. And man, that just was it actually the annual gala? Is that what it was called? Or
Yes, that's our annual
it
gala.
kind
It's
of
the night
blew
of
me
Broadway. We do it
away.
every
And
year.
I'm sorry if anybody didn't get a chance to see that, but damn it, they better next year, because it really is better than any broad. I mean, because you're seeing just this raw talent and on that show, and every time I was blown away, the next one would walk up and blow me away even more. And it was kudos to you for finding those people and their generosity and lending their
Yeah,
time to
thank
that
you.
event. That was really
Thank you.
kind of magical. I'll never forget it. And I'm
Thank
already
you.
looking forward to next year for that.
Yes, us too. It's also this year was very special because a couple of the teachers had actually, sorry, a couple of the performers had actually been teachers for us as well. So,
Yeah.
just seeing that kind of full rounded, thing of them coming and supporting us on both ends of the organization was really great.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so now you have a vision for,
Yes.
eventually this is going to turn into a brick and mortar school for grades 6 through 12.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that and where you are with those plans.
Yeah. So the main mission of the organization is truly to create that school with the arts and the academics being at the same level of importance, meaning a full time academic school. So this would replace students going to their typical middle school or their typical high school experience, but instead they would come to us and receive kind of high level arts and academics all as part of that experience. Through the next couple of years, we have been working towards establishing a building in a brick and mortar space, which is our number one challenge as an organization. It's something definitely to talk about. The funding that's required to create a physical space, especially in this scenario, being an art school, is of course a lot. And what makes it especially challenging is when you want the arts to be of high value, you have to have art spaces that are of high value, which is not your typical office space or conference rooms that you can convert into classrooms. You have to think about where's the dance studio going to go, and are you going to have the correct flooring for it and the correct soundproofing and things like that. And that goes in the music room. Same idea. Same with the theater. Over the next year, we're really hoping to close that gap and try to identify a permanent space where we could at least get our programming started. But the goal is to bring in 60 students in a pilot program anywhere in grades 6 through 12 to really help us launch the school and get things going.
So 60 students. Okay. I mean, there's nothing more enriching in a community,
Yeah.
the arts, I think. Right. And it took me a while to realize that in my life. It wasn't until really even a few years ago that I started to realize, why aren't we supporting the arts? And it just makes sense. I mean, we're a media company, right? So we should be. And there's no greater joy in attending a theater or a dance show or whatever, a recital. It's definitely one of the more enriching elements of a community. So that's your plan for the future. So hopefully in the next year or so, you got this brick and mortar building with 60 or so students to pilot a program, and then off you go, really, right?
Yeah, once we get the space up and running, I mean the organization is where we want it to be. When we have those students there, after 60 students, the plan is for it to continue to grow by about 10 to 20 students each year until we get to that solid around 120 students is kind of what we want to max out at as a school.
if only there was a school like that when I was a child.
I feel the same way. I think I would have loved a school like this. And I only
Right.
know about it because I've seen that they exist in other parts of the world, in other parts of our country, but not in the suburbs. And so it's a great opportunity for us to create that for so many students.
Mm, yeah, right here in DuPage County, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Heart of Chicagoland. So I'm going to ask you next, I think, because you're an executive director of a nonprofit that's kind of just starting out. You know, you've been at this for a couple of years. I always love to ask the question, like, how do you manage it all? Because I mean, right now you're on a ship doing another show, right? But you're also managing
Yes.
a nonprofit. And like I said in the beginning of this episode, and I wasn't just blowing sunshine, you are one of the more effective executive directors that I've met. And I know this because when I first met you, and I think it was at an event at Stonebridge, um, you know, I'm always asking questions to see how far along you are in your marketing journey. And you had everything kind of shored up. And you were using a really good tech stack and all the right apps. And I just thought, all right, this guy, he's got his stuff together. So I'm going to ask you,
We're trying.
how are you managing all of this while even being away, you know, what, 25% of the year?
Yeah, I think it's something that it's constantly a learning curve for sure. I think the organization starting kind of outside of my house with two other educators really set me up for the plan that we weren't going to have our own brick and mortar space to begin with. And so, we started doing these pop-up events with that in mind. And as of now, we have no physical location, which has allowed me to participate in other things and still be creative and part of the arts, which is a big part of our mission too. We never want to have our administrators be, those administrators that strictly become administrators and leaders only and have nothing to do with the groundwork of what the mission is. And so, I'm very gifted to be able to do that and that our organization trusts me to do that.
Well, that's where the fun
as far
is,
as holding well, yeah, exactly. That's where the fun of it is that I get to come out and have these experiences and then bring them back to our students and bring the people that I meet back to our students and these experiences back. I think to answer your question though about how to hold it all together, it's really the people that are involved in the organization that really make it happen because we're such a startup. It's weird. We're a startup and I keep waiting for us to not be a startup. I'm sure so many other people can hear this and relate with it.
Yeah.
You start up, you can't get grants because you're too new. You can't get funding. Sometimes people don't even want to support on an individual basis or whatever it may be, or even want to send their students to your program because you're new. So there's that balance of it. And it really takes relying on the fact that I can't do everything on my own and seeing what experts I have around me, whether it's other educators, whether it's other board members, whoever there is kind of in my network that can come in and help kind of fill those gaps. And it's truly become a very hands-on organization from all the people involved, board members, teachers, parents, and that's how we do it.
So your board is not just an advisory level board. They're kind of rolling up their sleeves and you're relying on them a bit, it sounds like.
Absolutely. I mean, we have some board members who, they know their function as a board member is that they're going to be designing curriculum for the school because they are, school principals and school superintendents and people that have experience with that world. And maybe they've never been involved with a nonprofit before. And so some of the things are different in the way we operate as a board compared to what you typically would see.
Well, I mean, that's great because, most boards, 80-20 rule, 20% of the board members kind of do most of the work. And it doesn't sound like that's the case with you. So it almost like you're kind of blessed with a really good board and teachers.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, sometimes people come in from the outside that have had more experience in nonprofits and see that and they say, oh, what is the board doing when it comes to the fundraising aspect of it, right? Because a lot of people rely on their boards to help fundraise. And I think, that's definitely an area that our entire board would say, that's not our strength as a board. We have maybe one or two board members that really feels like, hey, I can fundraise some stuff. But everybody has their purpose. And so we've kind of divided the work up. And so those people kind of help teach each other. Okay, here's how we're going to fundraise as a board. And then our curriculum people say, here's how we're going to develop policies and curriculum for what a school could look like. We have other board members who are just connected in the community and know how to get us connected in the community so that people kind of outside our board are willing to understand the mission and, if anything, just help us spread the word. And so, yeah, that's how we kind of rely on them.
I think that's maybe even kind of your secret sauce, really, because you're doing skills-based board recruitment and deepening that
Yeah.
bench. And that's what it sounds like is going on there.
Yeah. I mean, that is a good way to put it. And it's happened accidentally, but it's been a true gift.
Accidentally. No, don't say that.
Yes. No,
I'm
that
sure
was
it was
very
very
strategic. Very, very. No, you know what? A lot of this has been like accidental strategy, you know, and everybody is humble enough to realize that none of us are experts at any of this, but we all have experts at pieces of it. And so, you know, there are some things that we stumble through, and, you know, we have big errors that happen here that, you know, maybe somebody who's been running a nonprofit for 20 years would have caught. But, you know, it's a learning experience for everybody, and we're all just learning to be flexible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are kind of like a relatively new nonprofit. What's been maybe one of your biggest I know one of the big challenges is obviously getting the brick and mortar building and figuring out that whole aspect of it. Any other challenges that you faced that maybe caught you by surprise?
I think the biggest challenge is probably around the fundraising and grant world for us. Really, you know, like as I had mentioned, it's very interesting because, you know, we have brought in incredible grant writers. We've brought in, you know, contractors to help us with that. We've talked to other nonprofit leaders. We've really tried to get out there. But there's this hurdle of being a new organization where we're finding a lot of grants aren't quite ready to support. And that's totally okay, because there's a lot of organizations in need. So everybody has a place. But that has definitely been a challenge for us, because a lot of the funding that we raise comes from the 2 events we do a year. And then, you know, from there, we just kind of do with what we can.
And I also like, maybe there's another strategy I think you have, and maybe it's another accidental strategy. I don't know, but you're out there. You're a fellow Rotarian. I think you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure. So you're kind of out there, so people know the name. I think mostly because of you.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, again, it's been important to us. When we first started this whole thing, we didn't even know Naperville was the area we wanted to be in. And that's an important thing to think about, is we spent our first year as an organization just trying to look for places that might welcome us. And so, you know, we did a feasibility study, and Naperville came back as the #1 place to put it. And so when we followed that data, we took another year to just keep coming to Naperville and going to events and meeting people. And the people I've met have been truly the guides that have said, you know, I think you'll meet some incredible people if you go to the Chamber of Commerce meeting. And then I went and then became a member. Same thing with the Rotary Club. I went just to kind of get to know people and just realize how great the people really are in the community. And now it's one of my favorite things to do. And it's, you know, when I'm out of town working on other things, it's one of the things I hate the most, is that I know I'm missing the Rotary Club meeting that week, you know?
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, Naperville sort of gets its recognition by being one of the best places to live in the U.S., right? By a certain number of magazines. I almost feel like I'm a resident of Naperville. I'm not. I'm a resident of Aurora, but I work and play in Naperville all the time because I'm just drawn to the magnetism of the people, and like you, most of those people are lifelong friends from the Chamber and from Rotary.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I live in Warrenville. You know, I actually didn't even live. I lived really far northwest before, when we were starting this. And I moved here because I loved the community so much, and moved to Warrenville because it was just close enough. But everything I do is in Naperville.
Did you say Warrenville?
Yes.
Okay. Well, just a town north.
Just a town north. So
nice. Well, I think you've said it all. I mean, this is a very important movement in Naperville, not only enriching the community and the families of those who become students, but also whatever the end result is, right? Because I have firsthand experience with my own daughter, who was quite the introvert. She'll hate me for saying this. Hopefully she doesn't watch this, but she was brought out of her shell, I think, in a large part due to an outfit called Kids Cabaret, which was a non-audition theater outfit, and it changed her as a person, in my opinion. And she's 24 and lives in the city now, but she, I think that was a very pivotal change in her life. And so I've always believed in the arts, since that moment. the power of the arts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it happens all the time. You see it all the time. That's one of the gifts we get when we get to work with these students is you see those moments of pure growth and change. And it's happened to so many of us. It's how I found my place. It's how I found my people. And it doesn't mean you need to go out and be a professional artist if you come to our school or if you participate in our organization. But it does help you foster that thing that really brings you joy and can bring you joy for the rest of your life.
Indeed. Illinois Conservatory of the Arts. We're going to be seeing more of that, I'm sure, in the coming years. Any parting thoughts for our listeners, Dylan?
No, I just want to thank you, Paul. I mean, your organization is so supportive of all nonprofits, but especially the arts. It's really been something that means the world to me, and I know so many other leaders. So thank you.
It's kind of a new area for us in the last couple of years, but I see a lot of people moving in and out behind you too. They're not even introducing themselves. What's going on there?
No, I know. I didn't even know that was a hallway, to be honest. I wouldn't have sat here.
Oh, no, it's fine. I just thought they would say hi, but nothing. All right, everyone. Till next time. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.